Hi, ladies. My name is Paula, and I'm here with author Julie Glynn. She is the author of If My Ass Were Smaller, Life Would Be Perfect, and Other Lies the Mean Girl in Your Head Tells You. So, thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to meet and talk with you. I loved the book, and we were just discussing before we started recording about how people sometimes look at the cover and they judge you sometimes and they don't always they judge it by its cover. So you were saying something about the subtitle and other lies the mean girl in our head tells us, um, meaning that this is not a diet book. So this is
Exactly. It is not a diet book. Primarily, and you've read it, but primarily it is a book about that voice in our head, the mean girl voice in our head. But though it touches on other areas that mean voice shows up, it also touches on areas where she shows up with regard to body size and food choices.
perfect. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you came to be an author?
Well, actually, it's so funny because, see, I don't consider myself an author. Um, I always consider authors are people like J.K. Rowling or, you know, um, whoever, I can't even think of any now, Robin Carr. Those are authors. James Patterson. I'm a coach that wrote a book.
Okay. And for a second there, I thought Mean Girl was rearing her head, but okay, I get
Yeah,
it.
I'm a coach that wrote a book. Um, so there probably won't be any more books coming out. It's just a one time. And I wrote it primarily because I felt like there was a basis of information that was helpful for my clients to know in order for us to optimize our work together. And instead of spending time kind of keep presenting these concepts, it was easier to what? Let's just put it in a book. And then you have that basis that we're going to work from. And so that's kind of where it came from. I used to teach special ed before, and it's kind of going back on a teacher skill that if you give a classroom direction and then let the kids work independently, if each one of them keeps asking the same question over and over and over again, your time is best utilized bringing the class together and giving the instruction again and having them all understand it together, as opposed to telling each one of them the same thing over and over. So it's kind of was the same idea of I'm saying the same thing to so many people individually. Let's just put it all in one spot.
Oh, that makes so much sense. We don't love repeating ourselves, but it sounds like the book is basically like a prerequisite to doing further work with you. Is
It's
that
helpful. It's very, very helpful. Yes, it's a springboard. Some people read the book and that's really all they need, and that's great. Some people read the book and they're like, "Oh, I really want to go deeper. I want a deeper dive and really master this." And then that's just kind of like a springboard from there.
wonderful? So let me see. The first thing that or I loved the character that you created in the book. To kind of demonstrate the concepts, Miss Darlene. And I was so curious because she sounds so realistic and relatable. If any of the experiences that Darlene has in the book were based upon experiences that you also had in real life.
Some of them are based in part on experiences I've had in life. Some of them are based on experiences of my friends that I witnessed. Some of them are based on clients' experiences. Some of her experiences are based on, but then a little exaggerated to really make the point. Because sometimes if you just have like a superficial experience, it's like, well, but if you really blow it up, it's like, oh, yeah, okay. And I created her because one is not all of the experiences are mine, and I couldn't take them all on as mine. So if it was a client's experience and I said it was mine, by the time the book is over, I look like I've really, really had a lot of experiences. And I felt like that was going to be a little bit of overwhelm. And also, um, I didn't want to claim things that weren't mine because I didn't think it was fair to make people think that I had that personal experience when I didn't actually experience it. So I took those three groups: people I know, people I've worked with, or me, and compiled them all into Darlene. And
Awesome.
a lot of the feedback I got when I was drafting and people were reviewing is that they were rooting for Darlene. They're like, I want to know what's going to happen with Darlene. I want her to succeed. I want her to get past this because she has her struggles. And it became really, really fun working on Darlene, on creating Darlene. And I had some people tell me that they were really excited about what happened with Darlene at the end. Some people was telling me that, you know, certain parts of her life, they didn't want that to be the choice that she made. They were rooting for her to go in a different direction. One person told me they cried at the end. Um, I've never had anybody say they didn't like Darlene.
Well, she's a collective experience. She's a collective of all of our experiences,
she
and I
was
love
the
that you gave
most
her a happy ending.
she was the most enjoyable part of writing the book because then I got to use a lot of creativity in Darlene, in her life. And
Well, I think if you ever decide to stop coaching, you have a career in fiction writing. So it just reads so easily. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the whole book, but I really enjoyed the character of Darlene.
yeah.
So, um, and then of course, when you talk about your experience in the beginning with the house fire and how that made you, how that led you to develop your silver lining technique, you know, um, first of all, I never want to go through that. And but you obviously are a stronger person for it. And the way I took or understood the silver lining is that it is about thinking positive. It's about finding the good in everything. But sometimes that's always easier said than done. That's like one of
Mhm.
those cliches that we hear is, oh, think positive, be positive, think positive, and you'll be happy,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, how do I do that? So I love
Right.
that you go through and you give like 4 concrete steps to do that to help us get into a place where we're more positive and grateful.
Right. One of the things I think is really important is that we all recognize that even though we're having a bad experience, we need to go through that experience in order to get to the next experience. And that's kind of the whole point of the think positively. There's a silver lining. It's because this happened. Now I'm a better person going into the next thing. Are you there?
Okay, are you still there with me? Okay,
I
there you
am.
are.
Yes.
Whoops. So I kind of lost you at the whole think positive. So we're going to back up a little bit. And can you start over again with the silver lining?
Okay. I'm going to go all the way back to like that you just asked me the question.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
I think one of the important things about like the finding the silver lining cycle I talk about, is not necessarily that we always think positively, but we always be like, well, I'm having a negative emotion. I'm not going to feel that. I'm going to be positive. It's that we need to go through those negative experiences in order to get to the next experience that we're going to have. If that makes sense. Part of our journey is always going to be experiencing negatives. We don't have to let that mean something negative. It's just part of our lesson that we're going through. And that's what happened, I think, with our fire. Kind of the funny thing about it, not that it's funny, but is we constantly kept finding as we were going through that process of, oh, well, thank goodness this. Oh, the silver lining of this. Oh, well, at least that. And so it was like we're going through like a really devastating experience, but it's like there were so many things that's like it could have been way worse. except for this. And so it's like that's kind of where the focus was, is exactly that. It could have been way worse, but there were these good things that for whatever reason didn't end up happening. And then also, I mean, and it was an experience. I even said in the book, you don't just have a fire one day and wake up the next day and go on with your life. You go through a lot of stuff for quite a long period of time before you're even at the point where life is back to normal. um and that's, like I say, I feel like I had to go through that. For whatever reason, that was part of my path, part of my journey, is you're going to go through this basically living hell for a year. And on the other end, you're going to come out and be a different person as a result. And that's not to say that you don't feel, it's one thing to say think positively, but not at the expense of not experiencing your negative feelings.
Right. So one of the things that you had, or that touched me too, that hit home, was like you said in the book, nobody is happy all of the time. Nobody has a perfect life because nobody experiences happiness all the time. So, the grass might look greener on the other side, but it's not.
That's right. And how would we know what happiness feels like if we don't sometimes experience unhappiness?
Right.
You know?
It helps you appreciate the
Yeah.
good times more
Yeah.
because
Because I
you've
know
had
what
all
the
these things,
opposite of
right?
this feels like. And I go through that. And because I go through that, I get to feel happiness. So it's, yeah, I did say that in the book. And it's with everything: sadness, happiness, um, there's an opposite for each one of them. And we have to experience both in order to appreciate the good part.
So, and then I liked your idea of giving your mean girl a first name because it balances the power scales. Of course, I named mine Karen. Ha ha ha. So she's Karen. um, how did you come up with the idea to give your mean girl a first name?
Well, one of the things I thought of, and I kind of touched on it a little bit in the book, is that, like, when we're in school, we don't refer to our teachers by their first name because it insinuates an even level, a balance of power. I used to work, when I taught special ed, part of one of my jobs, I worked in correctional facilities. And they even gave us workshops and had people come in about the importance that the inmates did not call the employees by their first name, because again, it brought a more level balance of power. And so I thought, well, if we give our mean girl a name, that puts us on an even playing field. She's got the
Yeah.
same level of power as I do because we are on a first name basis. And so I thought, and plus, it's a lot easier to talk to her if you give her a name. And, you can tell her whatever you choose for your name. Okay, Karen, not doing that right now. And it doesn't feel adversarial as it does if it's like, and I think I even mentioned in my book, how can we expect her to be anything but a mean girl when we refer to her as mean girl?
True.
So give her a name. I encourage people to, because I had some people say, "Oh, I gave her the name of this person that I hate so much, and I just can't stand her." And I'm like, but remember, as you go through the process, she's going to become your ally. She's going to become your little cheerleader. You want it to be somebody that doesn't immediately create a negative connotation in your head. You want it to
Yeah.
be a name that you can feel comfortable with.
So, you also struck a chord in when you said that your relationships are never healed by conflict. So, I mean, that's pretty mind blowing right there because I didn't never really stop to think about that. I mean, that's any relationship, whether it's, in your personal life, your career, um, but particularly that relationship with ourselves. One of us has to be more level headed and compassionate for any healing to begin. Um,
Right.
and so As a boudoir photographer, I work with a lot of ladies who need to heal that relationship with themselves, and I do that through my lens. But I do love the way that you articulated the idea that you can't have a healthy relationship with your body if you're always hating on yourself.
Exactly. And you probably understand this very well, that so many women, and I work with a lot of them, that are like, the blanket statement. They walk in, I will always hate my body. I don't care what you say, what you tell me to do. I will always hate it. And it's like, well, then it's a choice you have. But then you also have to accept the fact you're never going to have a good relationship with your body. I think from what I recall, I gave an analogy in my book about, so imagine you go into marriage counseling and you blanket statement with your marriage counselor, I hate my husband. I don't care what you say. I will always hate him. Will hate him the rest of my life. Chances are you're not going to mend that relationship with your husband. And it's not any
Hmm.
different when it's your body, your own body.
This is true. So you suggested that we invite Mean Girl in for a real conversation and to be compassionate with her. We've
Mhm.
both been duped by the $72 billion diet industry. How would you recommend starting that conversation off?
The first thing I always recommend is, actually, even before you start having the conversation, is noticing her presence. Because I think for a lot of us, I mean, she's been around forever. And I talk about the beginning of the book. She's been around forever. If you observe children, you will hear them vocalize their own mean inner voice. That's how long that voice has been around. Um, but I think almost something like we've taken it for granted, that it's just there so often we can't really differentiate between what is my own authentic thoughts as opposed to what is that voice in my head that's holding me back thoughts. So the first thing I always say is just start to notice when it's not you that's controlling the thought process that's going on in your head. When you start hearing negative things, little things like you see an ad in the paper about um, a job, and the first thought that comes into your head is, they'll never hire me. That's not your own brain giving you that thought. That's your mean girl that says, no, no, no. That's too scary, too risky. Don't even give it a try. You're going to get hurt. You're not worthy. That's not that's not your rational, thoughtful brain talking to you. So just kind of noticing how many times we say, oh my God, if I wasn't so stupid, I would have done this. Okay, that's not your rational, thoughtful brain. That is your mean girl that's doing that, speaking. So the first thing I always say is just notice how often she's showing up and how prevalent she is in your life. And then from there, starting to question it. Like, wait a minute, why wouldn't they hire me for that job? And I think we've probably all done it. We look at a job in the paper and we're absolutely qualified for it, but we immediately think, oh, no, 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 no. I can't take the rejection. They won't hire me. It's such a great job. I'd be so happy there. I can't take it. I'm not going to apply for
Yeah.
fear they won't hire me.
Mhm.
But then you really question, wait a minute, where is this coming from? I'm fully qualified for this.
That's so true. And it kind of reminds me of how, like, when I speak with clients who book boudoir sessions, and this is totally out of their comfort zone for a lot of ladies. It takes some women years to work up the courage to book a session. But sometimes I see women talk themselves out of doing the session. They booked it and then they've talked themselves out of it because of the same thing. It's that inner fear of, what if I look fat, or, what if she thinks I look fat, or, what if I don't like my photos?
Mhm.
So I think sometimes their inner mean girl really gets to them, and and when you said your mean girl is trying to keep you safe, I equated that to mean the mean girl keeping you in your comfort zone, keeping you safe from taking risks.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's the risks that make us grow as human beings,
Right.
to make us stronger.
Right.
So in essence, mean girl is really just the part of us that acts out due to fear. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like fear keeps us living it keeps us from living the life that we want. So just
Mhm.
like you pointed that out in the book,
Yeah.
how would your life be different if you reached your goal weight? What is preventing you from doing what you want now with the body that you have now?
Right. 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 And that's where the lie comes in, is that we always think things are going to be so much better when I if I make this amount of money, when I make this amount of money, when my kids go to kindergarten and I have the full day to myself, when I lose this amount of weight, if I had that kind of car, if I was married, if I wasn't married, we always think that there's this like goal line that when we get there, then everything is going to fall into place. And the thing is it never does. It never does. I think I said in my book too, you could wake up tomorrow. I said, if you take that magic pill, you wake up tomorrow at your dream weight, you know, your kids are still going to talk back to you the same way they did yesterday. If you're in school, you're still going to get the same kind of grades. You're still going to have to do the same amount of work at your job. Your bank balance is still going to be the same. Everything is still the same, but we think, because we attach this idea and do a lot of comparing, and like the mean girl tells us, that we have this strange idea that by achieving something external, everything else is going to fall into place, and it never does.
That is so true. Like one of the things I'm always saying is like, look, we might get thinner, but we're never getting any younger. You know, take the photographs with the body that you have now, and I understand it. I've obviously put on some weight since I started doing boudoir photography. It is a little bit more of a sedentary lifestyle. And right now, I'm about a size 14 right now. So I don't know that I love that, but I accept it. And I'm working on it too, but like I get it, what it feels like to be in front of the camera and you don't feel like you're ever thin enough or good enough. But trust me, I always say, like, trust me, trust the process, do the photos. You're going to be so glad you did. I've never had a client come back and say, well, I regret doing that. They never do. They're always like, oh my God, I wish I would have done this sooner, usually is
Mhm,
what they tell
mhm,
me.
mhm.
So it's kind of that same thing. Like, get out of your comfort zone, take the risk,
Right.
and accept the body or work with the body that you have now.
Right.
Um, so you talk in the book about intuitive eating, and one of the questions that I had was like, how do you direct our energy? Like, how do we direct our energy away from our relationship with our body and our food to something else? So, because you talk about emotional eating and how that has a negative connotation, when really, sometimes we eat out of boredom or, distraction or stress or whatever.
The thing about that is that something's going on in our thoughts that leads us to doing distracted, boredom, or emotional eating. And so we're using the food, and some people that's not food, gambling, sleeping, shopping, I'm using something, binge watching TV. I'm using something external to keep me from thinking about what's going on. It's kind of like I said with my fire. You're going to have negative experiences and negative emotions. If you just acknowledge them and be like, okay, what's going on right now? It sucks. It hurts. I don't like it. I can't change it, but it's there. It will go away way faster than a pint of Ben and Jerry's will make it go away. And then you can get past that. That's not to say that sometimes we don't eat when we're not hungry, that we don't eat when we're in social situations or we overeat in situations, but it's when we're doing it to try to escape that can be addressed.
Okay. So to me, intuitive eating, like it also, like the way I understood it was, if you eat slower, you can process how you feel while you eat. You can pay attention to whether or not you feel satisfied, or if, you're eating too much and you feel just uncomfortable, or you're getting heartburn, or whatever you're going to eat is going to give you heartburn.
Mhm.
Um, would you say that that's a pretty accurate description of intuitive
It
eating?
is. Yeah, it is. Paying attention while you're eating, which is like I said, with distracted eating. When we're distracted while we're eating, sometimes like you don't even know you ate. I mean, you know you ate, but it's like you're looking for, like, say if you're having, like, if you had 5 cookies and you're doing something else, it's like you're looking for, like, where are the rest of the cookies? And you're like, did I really eat 5 cookies? I don't even remember. I didn't even notice it. I just distracted, absentmindedly ate them, which takes away from food is pleasure. You know, I mean, we eat
Yeah.
cookies because we like them, because they taste good. And so if it's going to be something that we're enjoying, we should at least take the time to enjoy it. And that's
Yeah.
part of intuitive eating. Also is, like you said, pay attention. When you're full, then be done. Think about like a baby. Babies don't just nurse or drink from their bottle all day long because they like the taste. They're done. They know they're done. They feel like I don't have that painful feeling of hunger anymore. I'm done. They cry out when they are hungry, and then they eat. And so there's several principles to intuitive eating, but I mean, like, in the nutshell would be you eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full, pay attention to what you eat things that you like, don't eat foods that you don't like, pay attention to foods that make you not feel well. Not every food was made for every body. So some bodies don't handle milk, don't handle garlic, don't handle tomato sauce, you know, but at the same time, it's not restricting. Like, don't not eat it because, and this kind of like cracks me up too, because I think about, if we treated our children or our dogs the way we treat our bodies, for example, I think I did a blog one time about like my dog got into the garbage and ate a cupcake liner that had, stuff in it. We still fed him dinner, but like as humans, if we overate at lunch or I had cupcakes at lunch, well, I'm not going to have dinner tonight. No, I had 2 desserts this afternoon. I'm not going to have dinner. Well, if you did that to your child, they'd come and probably take your kid, you know? But we do that to ourselves. Oh no, I couldn't eat anything now because I ate earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many times have I heard somebody say that? Well, I ate this earlier, so now I can't eat this. Or
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
can't
going
eat
to eat
again
that
until
because I ate
tomorrow.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it is kind of like funny, like if you personify your body and like your poor little body's like, but wait a minute, I need to eat just because I ate earlier. So that's kind of part of intuitive eating too, is not to deprive or restrict or deny food. And the reason we do that, I mean, there can be reasons. It can be like, I'm sick, I don't feel well, my stomach's bothering me, whatever. But it's when we do that because we think we're going to lose weight and look better. That's when it's like, really? Is that is not intuitive eating. That is basically, that's diet. That's a diet. And the thing that kind of is concerning about that is that just because you lost a pound doesn't mean you lost a pound of fat.
Right. Could be water weight for sure.
Or it could be, I mean, it's like some people lose weight and they're not doing it properly, or they're doing through starvation and they're losing muscle mass, or they're losing, other internal things are not working, that it's not always healthy. And it's unfortunate that as a society, we've put so much emphasis on size and the number on the scale that sometimes people are not healthy just for the sake of, I want to look good.
Yeah. And it is sad. That makes me sad.
Yeah.
Just as a photographer, I see so many different women in all different body shapes and sizes, and I can see their beauty, but I can see them. I can almost see the internal dialogue sometimes going on with them, um, and to see, to feel when they don't feel comfortable sometimes, and it makes me a little sad,
Hmm.
like because I come from a place of love and I can see the beauty.
Hmm.
So, but it is fun showing them the final result, and they were like, "Oh my God, that's me. I didn't think I could look like that." I'm like, "Yes, that's you."
Yes. And that's what you look like always. It's not like, something special or we did something different. That's how you always look.
Yeah, and I like to show them their photos, unretouched at least to start with, because I really feel like it helps in the end see that, like, hey, this isn't a photoshopped version of you. This is you.
Mhm.
So yeah, you have, your hair done and a little makeup on, but this is you.
Mhm.
So, and the other thing that I really loved in the book was when you talk about, like, you clothes shopping and you're giving advice basically on how to dress for the body that you have, instead of just choosing something because it's cute, regardless, it might dig in and then it's giving you a muffin top. Like, well, and then you never wear it because you're uncomfortable with it. But one of the things I'm always telling my clients is, like, there's no consistency with sizing. Don't be afraid to size up on your lingerie so that it's not digging in. Yes, you can wear those stuff with the harnesses and the straps. You're not going to look like a ham hock. You just need to size up.
Mhm.
So one of the things that you had said that I really thought was cool was, when you go shopping, to grab both a size up and a size down, go into the dressing room and grab one of them. Don't look at the size, just grab one and put it on and see how you feel in it.
Mhm. I actually stole that from when I did intuitive eating counselor training. I learned that there. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse, I think, than you can do for your day is than to wear clothing that doesn't fit you comfortably.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those sacrifices that people make based on how they think that it looks. And really, our looks are only something that we're doing for someone else. And so we're making the sacrifice of clothing that doesn't feel comfortable. I'm super uncomfortable because I want to please people who might look at me throughout the day. And that's kind of like, I would say, the opposite of any kind of self care plan is to create
And
discomfort for yourself at
yeah,
some for
that's
someone
true.
else. But yeah, and like exactly, and I mean it's kind of a mind game clothing shopping because if you go to a store that doesn't have a lot of varieties of sizes like TJ Maxx, I mean it's like what they have in their medium department section is completely different than the large section because everything is so random. And then you go in there and it's like a mind game that I expect this number to fit me. And then when you go into the dressing room, it doesn't. And then you come out and you're almost like, you know, in a foul mood because you feel badly about your size and shape because of the sizing inconsistencies on those tags. It's kind of frustrating because like some clothing, especially like men's, they do a measurement. My husband can
Yes.
go to the store and
Yep.
buy a pair of
You can
jeans
pick it up
and he
off
doesn't
the rack.
have to try them on. I'm like, well, how do you know they fit you?
Exactly.
He's like, because that's my size, Like, that's so not fair. You have like 40 sizes to choose from. We get
Yeah,
three
it's
for some
sexist.
numbers. Yeah.
It's really, I mean, and then you start to see the sexism
Yeah.
that's there. It's like, well, they get accurate sizing, but we don't.
Yeah. And they're the ones who can handle it. We
Yeah.
can't. But
Yep.
again,
It's
I don't know. I mean, I do feel like you said, we've all been duped by this $72 billion industry that, and I think I might have said it in my book, where people told us there was something wrong with our body. And then they created an industry to sell us something to make us feel better about it. And it's like, well, that's kind of messed up, you
yeah, like
know?
they're creating a problem to solve,
Yeah, there wasn't a
that
problem
wasn't
there
there.
before, but let's make one and then charge you to feel better about it.
Right, like cellulite is the perfect example. I mean, I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it, like cellulite back in the day. I don't remember exactly what century, but like was never a thing. It didn't become a thing
Mhm.
until, we started sporting bikinis and stuff, and then
Well,
they were
until
like,
they told us that it was
yeah.
a problem. Yeah.
So, and I also feel like a lot of times just lately over the past couple of years, like I've started to see that really what is dieting, or, you know, but basically adherence to society's expectations.
Hmm.
Um, I want to be who I am. I want to be an individual, I want to eat this donut today
Mhm.
and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
So it's really just conforming, I think, to society, which I naturally probably um, rebel against a little bit.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
sure a lot of us do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably just as well. I don't know. Maybe it's the ones who are rebelling that are feeling the best about themselves, their sizes, and where they're at in their life at this point. And that being said, I can't say that that's how I always was. I think I said in my book, um I mean, I did all of them. I did every diet that was ever been created. That's why I know there's got to be a better world out there than constantly being on a diet. And
Yeah, and you mentioned, yeah, like what else could you do with that energy if you weren't always dieting? And I was like, yes, speak
I
it.
know, I know. If I wasn't, oh my gosh, when I think about the amount of time and energy that I put into counting macros or
Mhm.
learning
Yeah.
point systems, and I think there's a list in my book, and I took that from a Facebook group I'm in, and I went in there and I just completely asked them, what kind of things have you accomplished since you stopped focusing on calories and macros and points and all of these things, and I can't even remember the list, but I mean, it's phenomenal. Oh, I learned a new language. I mastered playing the piano. It's like amazing things. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, is those kinds of things. I garden all the time now. And it's like, yes, that's a full life, not scouring cookbooks and websites for, how can I make, I think I made a joke in my book about all the things we could make out of cauliflower. And I think I said something about, cauliflower, this, and Reese's peanut butter cups. And then I was like, okay, no, that's a joke. Nobody's mastered making Reese's peanut butter cups on cauliflower. Not yet.
Ugh,
It's
thank God.
coming. It's coming. Give it time.
Somebody will ask Chat GPT.
Yeah, it's coming, but it's like, how many things can we make out of cauliflower? And it's like,
And it
no,
still tastes like cauliflower.
I know.
Let's be real now.
Yeah,
Listen, I've tasted some really good cauliflower buffalo wings, but they do not taste like chicken.
no, but they still have the sauce and all of
Yeah.
that. But it's when you're doing, in like the almond flour pancakes or the cauliflower tortillas, it's like, no, that's just not it.
I want the
And
real
I think,
thing. And it's such a
yeah, and
disappointment when you make it and it doesn't taste good
right.
or as
And the
good as
thing
you want
is it's like all of that is fine if you actually have a health condition that
it. Right.
requires substitution. But if you're doing all of that simply because you're trying to change the size and shape of your body for external reasons, that's saddening. That's kind of saddening.
So, where would ladies find your book? I know that I bought
I
mine
have
on
a couple of them.
Amazon.
This is
Yeah.
what it looks like. I can't take
Go ahead.
credit, but I can say easily how much I totally love my cover because I didn't create it. Someone else did. So I can be like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. She did a great job on my cover. You kind of got to see it to really pull it all in because the cover's so cute. And she even came up with this
Mm-hmm.
herself. I didn't do that. Um, Signed copies are available on my website, which is julieglynn.com. Digital copies and unsigned copies are available on Amazon.
Perfect. And if somebody wants to work more with you, I did see that you had on your website, you have all kinds of resources. You've got like free videos up there, you have worksheets, um,
Yes.
and you have the sign up there to do coaching
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Coaching
So,
with me. Yes. We have, we're in the beginning stages of getting ready for a podcast and also an online program. that should both be out very, very soon.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you speaking with me today. I am so excited for others to read your book. I think you have so much to offer, and you had so many insights in there
Thank
that
you.
I just thought were amazing. Like I said about the relationships, the clothing shopping, just so many relatable things. So you have so much to offer. I wish you all the success in the world,
Thank you. You
and
too.
thank you. And thanks for being with us, ladies, and have a wonderful day.